Welcome. I thought it was time for an episode for the first time in a long time for TLG. So I thought I'd do a draft breakdown run. I always like going over these after the draft and seeing the talent that went in the first round and kind of the building blocks for the future for everybody and just kind of decipher what I think about everybody and kind of helps me learn who's on what team. So let's jump into it. First overall pick was Cleveland Guardians. Unfortunately, I don't have very great scouting actually since I just joined this league opening day. So everyone's pretty much average. So it might be a little bit off for a lot of these guys, but close enough. Usually there's just only a difference of a +5 here or there. So it's fine for the video. So first overall, we have the franchise catcher, Jared Burgess. He is unbelievable. One of the best first overall picks there's been in this league since I've been around all the years earlier. There's very rarely a college player at a premium defensive position that's a good catcher, like example like this one, that can pretty much play in the majors by like the end of the year. He's that special. The average catcher in the major leagues bat is probably like a 45 contact, 45 power, 45 to 50 eye with like 60 defense. That's kind of your average catcher. Like that's pretty much if you took all 32 starting catchers, all 30 starting catchers and all 30 backup catchers. So you took 60 catchers and you kind of average their ratings together. It'd be around that. There's a lot of bad catchers with like 70 defense and like 35, 40 bats. There's a lot of guys with like 50 bats and only like 55 defense. So I'd say right now you could throw him in the majors and he would probably be a top 40 catcher just because the defense would be plus and the eye would be elite. There'd only be like a handful of catchers with better eye than that. So, and then the bat would probably be pretty average when it comes to contact and power and gap and all that. So, right now he's like major league quality. There's no need to rush him on a rebuilding team. Like I'd probably still throw him in Double A and let him cook there for a bit, kind of get his defense topped off and just kind of make sure he's major league ready and gets maybe opening day next year or something. But essentially, he could play in the majors right now, talent wise. So that's just a no brainer at number one, in my opinion. Even though a lot of people are funny with that, they don't like taking catchers high because I've heard like a couple of different people say that something like, oh, they only play 110 games, 120 games a year instead of like the position players playing 130, 140. But I don't really look at it that way. In my opinion, it's such a premium defensive position, and you have to have their bat in the lineup. So it's so beneficial to have a player at that position with a big bat because it's pretty easy to find a good bat at DH and all those other spots. And if you can find a guy that's not a black hole catcher, it just brings such incredible value. And being able to rotate catchers, especially if you platoon them and stuff, there's so much value there. So I don't buy into the not drafting catchers high philosophy, but not saying it's wrong. It's just everyone has their different ways. Second overall pick here, Atlanta goes with a heavy power bat. Looks like a future first baseman here, but you never know. The defensive labs, you could always get away with these type of guys at second base with 1+ lab probably, but most likely a first baseman slugger. Looks like he's probably going to be like a 45 contact, 65 power type, 65 eye. What really makes him special though is the eye. So like the power is obviously really good. He hit 30 home runs in college, just a ridiculous slugger. But yeah, the eye power, the ISO combination has a ton of gap power too. So just really like a lot to like about a guy that is 21 years old, high work ethic, and has so much yellow. There's nothing that's red at all, or even orange. So he's just so advanced. Like you just throw him in high A for a couple weeks, shoot him up to Double A, probably one of those two levels right away, and then just major league ready pretty damn soon. Soon as you start to get one, like probably 250s, I'd say he's major league ready if you have 50 power and a 50 eye. You call him up kind of early to have him developing with the best coaches at the major league level. But yeah, just a guy that's just a juicy bat is really all there is to say about that. Next up, we have Colorado. Colorado goes definitely away from the top two college developed guys and goes the high school route. So they take just a pure contact singles hitter shortstop with great mentals and elite defense, good base runner. So he's never going to hit home runs. He's never going to walk much, but he has so much contact that he can be a one-trick pony offensively. And just like, the typical profile there of you get a guy that can put the bat and get contact, bat to ball skills in Colorado and just get the ball between the third and the first baseline and you're just going to get some crazy bat pips there because you have that much contact and that big a field to hit into. It's just match made in heaven. So, I mean, if like the gap power probably plays up a little bit in that stadium too. But it doesn't matter what stadium this guy's in, he's going to be good. He's just going to hit singles. He's going to play Gold Glove level defense, and that's crazy valuable shortstop. So line drive hitter, just a really interesting profile there. But very rare you get a shortstop with 80 contact and 80 BABIP on both the OSA. Like that's just unbelievable. Like ultra rare contacts. Probably only like one. I don't even know if there is one guy per draft class. Usually it's 80 in one and like 65 in the other, contact or BABIP. To have 80 of both is just outrageous. So just a crazy, crazy contact guy. Fourth overall, we go with our first pitcher. Just I don't like to talk about these high school pitchers for too long, because it's just everybody knows what it is. Just the crazy high ceiling, a little riskier, but if they pay off, you get just like an ace type quality pitcher because you have so much stuff, so much control, and high work ethic and just so many elite pitches. You just throw these guys in and they don't, I'd say they turn out less often than they do, but I mean, you got to draft those super high talent guys to get an ace, even if it's a little riskier, because the payoff of having a top of the line starter is just so valuable. So you just, you just draft a guy like that if you're Texas, put a bunch of money in Devo and pitching coaches and just hope he turns out. So you pretty much get the same thing, but a little bit, pretty much the same type of arm, but a lot more developed and older in Mike Scott. So this guy has 40 stuff. He strikes out 25% of batters in college, sub 3 FIPS all 3 years, elite control, and actually has pretty good just everything across the board. Absolutely amazing repertoire of pitches. Has 6 pitches, all like just awesome pitches. You have elite knuckle curve, a top of the line fastball, 98 mile an hour potential with 50, 80 is just outrageous. So just a number 2 prospect in all baseball. Look what the OSA thinks about him. They have 80 HRA against. So just a crazy difference between my scout and there. So usually with the low, actually it's probably somewhere in the middle there. Probably is closer to 60 or 65. Just an incredible arm there. I like him based on what my scout says, a little better than the high school guy, but the high school guy does also have a lot of time to build on labs and stuff. So people usually like doing the high school route sometimes. So sometimes you will take a guy that's maybe not as juicy if you have like 4 more years to put them in labs. So an interesting decision there. That's one of those ones I like to look at 5 years down the line and see like what paid off, the high school pick or the college guy, because pretty similar profiles. Both like heavy stuff, heavy control with lower movement guys. But this next guy is a really nice college bat that just has awesome power. 80 gap and 80 power potential, my scout says. That is so rare. Going to be a nice corner outfielder, left fielder, right fielder. He has high work ethic, which is a nice little trait that like 3 or 4 of these guys have had so far. Lefty bat with that kind of power is just so valuable. The avoid K is high enough, or it should get to a level like 40 or 45 that with that much power, you usually how it goes with that. But really high BABIP, just an amazing college bat. There's been 2 or 3 of these bats so far that just have huge power. So pretty nice draft when it comes to the top there for those college advanced bats. Next up, we go back to the high school route and we go with another one of those high school infielders. This guy looks like a kind of a fringe shortstop second base player. He is 19 years old and he has like 50s across the board. So it's just another one of those young guys you just throw in the system, and hopefully you get a middle infielder in 5 years in the major league level that has a plus bat, and those guys are always super valuable. So he goes to Detroit there. Next up, I had my pick. My scout loves this guy. My scout has 75 outfield range and 70 arm on this guy at center field, which just makes him pretty much in the running to be the best defensive center fielder in baseball. So even without the bat, the defense alone, if you just had like a 40 bat, you're pretty much a major league player. So the fact that the bat party pretty much is a 40 already just shows the floor is so high in this guy, because he's just pretty much already a major league player. He just needs to get a little better, and he's going to be like a plus player. So I don't think the ceiling is ever going to get there. I don't expect to get anywhere close to those. Sometimes you just get a gut feeling, like he's 22 years old already. And I just think it's one of those guys that I'd be surprised if he got above like 50 power, maybe 55, but I'm not keeping my hopes up to get that 60 or 70. But just the fact that if he can get to, I'd imagine he'll get to like a 60i, because 50, 80, like that's really high, 80 potential high. Just a crazy, outrageous walk number in college, 36 and 33% of plate appearances. So I think that eye is really legit. I think it's going to get to a 65. I think the power, I'd be happy if it got to 55. And then I really just hope it gets that 35 avoid K because it's always going to be low and he's going to strike out a ton. And you just got to live with that if you're going to go with a guy with that elite of defense. It's just not ever going to be a perfect bat. This is the type of guy that, like I said, it's like almost like he's worth 2 WAR in defense right now. So if you can just make him like an 85 WRC plus guy offensively, then you just walk into like a 3.5, 4 WAR guy. And if he gets a little better than I project at power and eye, what my scout seems to think, then he turns into a real good player. But I'm keeping modest expectations on that because I just don't think the contact will ever really be good enough to be a star player. If you look, he actually compares very favorably to my major league center fielder, and I think he'll be just a bit better than my guy here, Harold. But Harold also has really elite base stealing ability, so that kind of makes up for his lack of contact. But yeah, he just hits a decent amount of home runs and plays really good defense, and you just got yourself like a 2 WAR center fielder every single season. So kind of a somewhat similar comparison there. So I liked him a lot just because I'm a big defensive guy. Next up, we go back. This is a fascinating player. I was really tempted to take this guy. Huge signing bonus. We'll see if San Francisco ponies up. I think it's like 11.5 million he wanted. But he is a two-way player. He is a first baseman that has a 55 bat all across the board. I just couldn't take him over Salinas because he was just so raw with the bat. I just didn't think there was a very good chance that he gets above like a 40 bat. And I think he will just end up being a pitcher only. But I don't know. Also, I've thought that in the past, and other guys have turned out. He compares pretty favorably to Pete's guy here, the two-way guy that plays some first base, Joe Gillespie. Gillespie was a two-way guy. I think he was a high school guy in the draft. That yeah, he was taken 8 years ago, 26, so 8 years old. He is like 50 across the board with the pitching, and the bat ended up being like a 55-50. So this is kind of what this guy looked like. This guy's a little better though. Gillespie was like a second overall pick that had like legitimate third base ability and could even get by at second base. But yeah, he had a little bit better pitching, the power potentials and stuff. But pitching wise, this guy is actually better. He looks like a huge fireballer. He has the potential to throw 100 plus, which is pretty rare. 6'6" with that kind of arm talent. This is like what Paul Skeens would have looked like at a high school. Just a crazy frame and crazy power and big shoulder velocity potential. So you just kind of think like you have an 80 sinker, 80 cutter, and 80 fastball. That's 3 different fastballs pretty much that are 80 potential. And the scout thinks he has a 25-70 change. And so, I mean, look at the difference here. The OSA only has 45 HRA. My scout has him at 75. So I don't think this guy will ever have that much control, but we'll see. Most likely has a lot of reliever risk because there's a good chance he ends up at like 60 stuff, 50 movement, and like 40 control. But pretty amazing potential because he can potentially have the bat and the arm. So it'll be so interesting to see if that guy ends up being a legit two-way player or not. Next up, Baltimore goes with the really, really high-level defensive third baseman that has a big-time hit tool. Pretty much the same story as that third overall pick high school shortstop. That is just a singles hitter. The only difference is this guy doesn't have the crazy avoid K, but the BABIP is so high. And also a really elite level. That guy was like an 80 range shortstop. This guy is like a gold glove third baseman type. So pretty neat contact potential of those two guys. A couple of high school guys with like ability to be 300 hitters and premium defenders, which is neat. This guy fell all the way to 11th to New Orleans. I thought it was a really good pick. I consider this guy pretty strongly. Really liked so much about this profile. Pretty much liked everything, obviously, except for the power. A lefty bat with incredible contact ability. He has the ability to be like a 65 contact guy in a couple of years. Has crazy gap power. Pretty much the wet dream of New Orleans. If I know Drew at all, which I've been in leagues with him for a lot of years, I can just imagine how much he likes this guy. This is like fits his profile down to a T. He'll get him in a few stolen base labs, and he'll be a third baseman, it looks like, with just crazy on base percentage. Odds are this guy looks like a pretty good bet to be a like 60 contact, 55-60 eye type player with crazy triples and doubles ability, so make up for his lack of power. And as a lefty with that, and then once he gets on base, he looks like he's gonna be a weapon in the run game. And so when you have a guy, high leader, high work ethic, it looks like he's actually a captain morale-wise too. Those are the two that make captains, is if they have high leader and high work ethic. So the combination of these things just makes this guy such a fun prospect. The ceiling probably like is higher than you think. Normally, you'd say like a guy doesn't have like MVP level ceiling if they don't have power, because it's so hard to be like a contact guy that wins MVP if you only hit like 5 or 10 home runs a year. But with how good he is at absolutely everything across the board, it wouldn't shock me if this guy turns into an elite player even without the elite power. Just a really cool skill set. All right, next up we have another shortstop. This was a college shortstop. Chad took a shortstop, the Detroit GM, that looked pretty similar to this. This is the college version, though. He's a little more developed than that high school guy that went a little bit earlier, but Shell has a little better defense. The high work ethic, again, so many people like that. So many guys this draft have had that. So this is a 6'4 switch hitting, 55 power shortstop for BYU. Pretty neat profile across the board. 70 arm, hit 20 home runs 3 years in a row in college, and already signed this year. How much of a sign bonus was this? $3 million, so pretty good deal there at the 12th pick. Yeah, really legit shortstop though, Tommy Shell. Next up, we have Jonathan Jones, 6'7". This guy pretty much has the same pitching profile as the guy we talked about a couple picks ago. That was the two-way guy. This guy is not, but this is a 6'7" guy with like, oh my god, exact same profile as the other guy with I think the 380 pitches and the 170. Just the only difference is this splitter instead of sinker, or sorry, there's a curve instead of a cutter, but everything else is pretty much the same. This guy throws 98 potential miles per hour, has the nice stamina. The other guy had a lot. Yeah, so that's really fascinating to me. I have pretty high HRA in both of these guys, but I remember the other guy, the OSA only had like 45 HRA, but this OSA actually has 80 HRA on this guy. So the OSA is going to love this guy. They don't think his control is very legitimate though. I got 20/50, so that's the main difference. The other guy had 25 control, only 20 control. That doesn't sound like a huge difference, but 20 is a little scary because it could be below 20. His 20 is the minimum, so it could literally be like a 1. You never know. So the fact that he's 20 in both my scout and the OSA, it makes me think that's a really low. So you just really hope that guy can develop some control, but obviously has a very high arm talent ceiling with all the other ratings he has. So that guy goes to the Cubs. Next up, the Padres take a real junk ball guy. This guy has 5 pitches. We got some weird stuff here. We got a sinker, extreme ground ball guy. So we got a curve ball, an elite sinker potentially, really potential elite splitter, and then a knuckle curve and a changeup. Has all the green mentals except for leadership. So it looks like an amazing, amazing dude. His nickname is the Admiral, so he literally looks like he'd be like an Army colonel. And he's from California. Just literally checks all the boxes except for control. But he's just going to reduce home runs so much that's just a crazy, crazy ground ball guy. So with a guy like that, you just really want like an elite shortstop behind him because they're just going to have crazy high ground ball rates. So you really want good defensive infielders with this, and it really gives your outfielders a pretty easy day. Love that. Love those high movement guys. Next up, we have Evan Morris. I think my scout had this guy as like the number 4 ranked player in the draft because my scout loved his overall game so much. A two-way guy that's a really solid corner outfielder. And he's a lefty bat, and he has incredible currents, and he has incredible potential. So he checks like 8 boxes in a row there. The eye has the 20% walk rate, the power, 20 home runs back-to-back years in college. 70 potential power from a lefty bat that can play good defense is just awesome. So the Jays add a really potential impact bat to that lineup, which I love. Next up, we have the Reds. My scout did not like this guy as much. The OSA thinks this guy is a little bit better, though. My scout doesn't have very high, actually, so I'd probably be leaning towards the OSA profile a little bit more. The OSA just thinks this is a really raw, like a crazy young, late birthday, so he's 17, probably one of the youngest guys in this draft. 3 Reds with the current pitches, but has just crazy, crazy movement and control abilities. So this is probably one of the rawest guys you'll see in the first round. So Cincinnati's just taking a guy that hopefully one day can turn into a real polished pitcher with the HRA and control being so high. That's a guy you got to wait like 6 years on, maybe longer. Milwaukee takes a college arm, real high impact arm. The OSA loves this guy. The OSA thinks this is a top 3 pick in the draft. They have him as number 8 prospect in all baseball. My scout's just a little bit lower in his control, but still thinks it's plus. My scout thinks he uses the best curveball in the draft at 45-80, and crazy 6'5" frame with that kind of home run against is awesome. Also thinks he has fireball stuff there. Not only 94 miles an hour, but thinks he has 65 stuff potential. So that's just a really, really good pick at 17. I think the OSA and some other scouts would probably think that guy would go in the top 10. But some teams went with some high school guys above him. But I think that's a real potential steal there at 17. Next up, we have the best reliever prospect in a while, definitely in this draft. Probably a top 5 at the time of the draft reliever prospect I've ever seen, because one of the best sliders you'll ever see. You know you're good when you're 20 stamina reliever with 2 pitches, including a heavy splits profile because it's a slider. If you go in the first round and you're an OSA top 100 guy, that means you essentially are major league ready reliever, which he is. Right now, he has this stuff. Struck out 50% of batters, only let up 4.6 hits per 9 in college. You you look at that guy and you're like 65 movement, 65-80 home run against. Right now, with the potential to throw 101 with the best slider in baseball, and you're just waiting on that sinker to get a little bit better. Right now, against righties, he's already probably one of the better pitchers in baseball. He just needs to develop that second pitch so he can be more impactful versus left-handed batters. If he can get that sinker up to a 60, that just makes him so much better equipped to play both sides of the play. It's just right now, he's a real specialist pitcher, and that is just a ballsy picking a reliever that high, but I absolutely love it because that guy just looks, that's so sick. Like, those are the type of guys that just turn into such valuable dudes if you have like a playoff team and you can get those high quality elite relievers in the bullpen that can just whip out good righty bats. That's just that's really neat. Next up, we have Washington goes with the high school arm. You're just going with a fireball or high school guy here that is years and years and years away from being a potential major leaguer, but he's also got a 40-80 fastball and could throw 100 miles an hour in high school. And he has a really nasty cutter potentially. So I think we've talked about this before in this draft, the Reds guy and a couple other high school arms that go before. This guy is actually probably just as raw as the Reds guy. So 2 guys that are kind of similar profiles. It's just a little bit more of a fireballer here, while the other guy was more of a movement and control guy. But yeah, high school guy is just lights out all 4 years. Struck out 209 guys as a freshman in high school, 40+% strikeout rate every year. So that's just a fireball high school guy. Next up, we go back to the high school bat. So we got a high school lefty bat that is a big time contact hitter. So this is a guy that has huge contact, but also backs it up with some legitimate power. It looks like my scout thinks he hit almost 500 in high school and hit home run every 4 games there, and can play solid left field defense from the looks of it, and has really good mentals. So that's a really safe combination when you're a lefty bat with that much contact and have some power and have good mentals. There's a really good chance this guy ends up being solid. Not a crazy potential because the eye doesn't seem good enough to ever be like a really elite hitter, but I think the odds of him being pretty good are really high. Next up, we have the Reds again. The Reds have another pick. So they went with a really, really high ceiling, low floor high school arm, and then they go the opposite direction with this pick. This one, when they go with the nice and polished university lefty from Massachusetts, he is a real nice movement and stuff guy. Has 3 really decent pitches. All as a lefty pitcher, just really good chance he's a major leaguer because he can be a really solid bullpen guy as a lefty with nice velocity and has that nice sinker. Just a lot of things to like about that profile. A lot of yellow there. So odds kind of the same as that last pick I just talked about. I don't think the ceiling's quite there for him to ever be like an ace type pitcher, but I think there's a pretty high probability that he's a really solid major league arm. Again, I could be totally wrong. My scout's not very accurate on these guys. Next up, the Angels go with a real nice all-around player. This guy is 19 years old, 6'3", switch hitter. He doesn't have any yellow as his entire profile. He is plus at absolutely everything, like a 5-tool guy. So he has really solid contact. He's a good base runner. He can steal some bases. He's a really good corner outfield defender, almost good enough to play center field. I think there's a really high chance he ends up in the corner, but I think he can be a really solid fourth outfielder that can survive in center field a little bit, but most likely like a 55 range left fielder. Plus power, plus eye, plus gap power, plus contact. So he's plus with everything in the bat. And as a high school age guy, he doesn't have any reds. So that's really advanced for high school level. Like if you put him, compare the level there to the complex league. I mean, look at that profile. So just really balanced and good at everything. So a really neat all around player. Kind of sounds like Mike Trout was in high school. Next up, the Yankees have another first round pick. The Yankees go with a high ceiling, 100-mile-an-hour high school arm that has 380 pitches. 480 pitches. He has an 80 sinker, an 80 fastball, an 80 curve, and a 75 slider. So this is his name is Uncle like that. 34 ranked prospect in all baseball. The OSA thinks he has 80 stuff. So I've seen a couple of these guys now kind of neat in this class of the high school arms that just have crazy velocity, crazy fastballs. So these guys are all looking like high strikeout guys. This guy is really raw with the home run and the control. So I'm pretty skeptical on this guy turning out because that's pretty raw in those two important categories. But he just throws really hard and he has a lot of velocity and has really good pitches. So that's a nice couple nice things to fall back on there. Next up, the Dodgers. The Dodgers pick a guy that looks almost identical to the guy that went third overall, just has a lot less defense. So this guy is more of a second baseman, but I think he's really close to being a shortstop. I think, he's from New York too, where they used to be the Brooklyn Dodgers. So I just think this guy is one lab away from being a shortstop, and then he's super valuable. I still think he's pretty valuable as a solid second baseman. See if he can play outfield. Yeah, he can perhaps survive out there as a utility guy, but most likely a second baseman. But I think you put him in 3 labs in a row and just pass one of them and get him up to 65 range and 55 arm, and you got yourself a shortstop. 80 contact, almost 80 gap power, crazy speed, just a crazy athlete. This is one of those dudes that would have been a high school quarterback or a high school receiver. 6'2", 170, probably a basketball guy too with that much athleticism. Just a sick athlete. New York dude with that much eye-hand coordination there with that good a bat pip and that good a avoid K. It's pretty cool. Next up, we have the 25th pick going to Seattle. Seattle picks Ben Jackson. Ben Jackson is one of those fascinating guys that my scout thinks is 60 range, and the OSC only has 45. So most likely a corner outfielder, but he has 80 bat pip and 65 power, which is really similar to that Yankees guy we had about 8 picks ago. This guy's great mentals. And really, really good sign when your 2 most developed tools as a high school guy are the 2 most important ones, BAPIP and power, because those 2 translate to immediate success. If you look, I'd imagine those ones, right away in rookie ball's 19-year-old, he can hold his own with almost 50 power and 50 contact. So this is a dude that should be able to have some nice success in the early minors there, even though he's so young, which is hard sometimes for 18, 19-year-olds. Next up, we have a guy that my scout absolutely loves. The OSA loves this guy too. They have him as the number 17 prospect in baseball. 40-80 stuff at 6'6". 480 pitches and a 60 changeup. Struck out 40% of batters all 4 years in a row. That's some unbelievable numbers there. 40 stamina. So this guy throws 100 miles an hour potentially. Already throws 96, 98. It's just crazy at 18. So this guy looks almost as good as those guys that were going in the top 10 the high school pitchers. So to get him down here at 26 is a very nice pick by Montreal. Next up, we have potentially, I'd say, other than that guy that went first or second overall, that was like Major League ready and the reliever, probably the most pro-ready player in this class. He has great mentals, but yeah, he's a lefty 22-year-old that has 40 control. He only walked about 5% of guys all 3 years. He has 45 movement. His best tool is his movement. Great home run against. 45-60 is awesome. That's a super valuable category. The OSA thinks this guy has like Greg Maddux level control. My scout is at a 65 on him, so it's a little bit in the middle. Um, Either way, great control as a lefty is so valuable with great home run against and adequate stuff with four solid major league level pitches. Really cool when you have a lefty. Just something about the profile of a lefty with his best pitch being a changeup is honestly one of my favorite things in the entire sport. I just love lefties with changeups. I don't know why. Just something about it is so fun to watch. Just I think it was because I was a Jays fan and I really liked Ted Lilly when I was younger. Something about that profile, the lefty with a nice little soft tossing lefty. But yeah, this guy's really neat. Just totally different from all those high school guys that are like the fireballers with the 100 velo and the stuff potential. This guy's just radically opposite than those guys. So kind of a neat to have some diversity like that when you have like not just all the same type of profiles. Next up, we have Philly going with the probably only the second guy in this draft that's a legitimate middle fielder. There was that one shortstop with like 80 range. And then I think probably my center fielder, and then probably this guy. There's the only three so far that are probably like sure things, rather center fielder, shortstop. This guy's 70 range, high leadership, high work ethic, and has a really juicy bat. He's a lefty bat. That's like a five tool guy again. So to get a five tool guy at 28th is pretty nasty. One of the best eyes in this draft so far, 40-55. The current being so high and it still being a plus, a really good chance this guy has like a 50 major league eye at center field. Probably like 40-45 power in his prime, but we'll see. The gap power is really special, which is huge in Philly because the power is going to play up a bit. So when the gap power plays so high and then his power will play up a bit, you could just see some real success of this guy in the future. If he can get to like, be like a 240 hitter, major league average contact, but then his gap power plays really high and hits some triples and doubles and then hits a few more home runs than you think. Maybe it gets up to 15, 20 home runs, playing really high level center field and snag some bags with some high level athleticism. That's a lot of check marks there throughout the profile. All right, next up we have Boston. Boston goes with the really young, one of the younger guys in the draft class. His nickname is White Snake, which is really cool. 17-year-old high school arm that has an 80 fastball. This is like the fifth guy in this draft, an 80 fastball, 80 slider, and really good sinker. Really good control. That's his best tool is his high level control. 30-65 I, sorry, 30-65 control from a guy that young is so nice. The OSA has 80 control in him, so really really special tool there with the controls. Having not many 17-year-old guys that throw hard have a semblance of control. So I think in this draft especially, we've seen like 6 different pitchers go that have like 25, 45 control. So when you have a guy with this level of control, it's a totally different animal. Kind of like a younger version of that Pittsburgh guy we just talked about a few picks ago. Next up, Arizona Diamondbacks. Arizona, another high school arm. And this guy is quite a bit more polished than those other guys. It just doesn't have the velocity ceiling. But the really good home run against, the really good currents, couple yellows there from a high school guy is really nice. Really good mentals, throws 98 miles an hour. OSA is incredibly high in this guy's control. Only walks 6% of batters in high school. So back-to-back guys, high school arms at the end of the first round that have awesome control is really neat. Next up, my division rival here, Albright gets picked by the Twins here. This is another high school arm that looks just like the guy one picked before. So really a lot like this Arizona guy. This guy just has 3 really good pitches. Has this control as his best tool. So that's 3 guys in a row. We had a little bit of run on control pitchers here. And enough velocity to only 55 stuff potential, but then the 100-mile-an-hour velocity. So it wouldn't surprise me if that stuff, my scout's a little bit off and he does have a little higher stuff. Yeah, so there's the OSA. So the OSA has this guy as number 32 prospect in baseball. So a lot of really high-ranked pitchers in this draft. I think my scout's underrating that last guy a little bit from the looks of it. Next up, we have another one of those high BABIP. A lot of these guys, not many pure power hitters in this first round. There was a guy that went really high in the top 3 and then a couple others. But other than that, there's been a lot of these really high BABIP guys. Just like we talked about earlier, this guy is actually a lot like the guy we talked about that went 11th to New Orleans, just doesn't have as good of an eye, which makes sense, the jump between the 11th pick and the 32 pick. But same type of profile. Both are like second base, shortstop, second and third base. Could really play any of the 3 positions. likely as a second baseman, but yeah, the LSA thinks he's more of a third baseman with a little less range, a little bigger arm. We'll see where this guy ends up, but yeah, a lot like that New Orleans guy, just not quite as good in the base pass and not quite as much eye. But this guy also actually even has better hit tools. So, um, it will be interesting to compare those two guys, the New Orleans guys and this guy, to see which one ends up being better in the long run. I think that guy was a high school guy too. So both young, both have really nice hit tools, good all around players. So that's it. That was the first round. I will not get into supplemental picks because I don't want this episode to be too long. So I'll just end this episode there. I'll say, just to recap everything, elite catcher, Major League Ready, number one. Elite first base power bat, number two. High school 80 range shortstop with big time singles hitter potential at number three. And then we start there, bunch of arms start going here, and then we have a couple nice another real nice bat going to Oakland, and then I get my pure defense center fielder there, and then we start the go real high schooly here for a while, take a lot of those arms, and then I like some picks at the end of the first round a lot. I think probably my favorite value pick in the entire first round was maybe this. Where was that Montreal pick? I think this guy's a fantastic player, and then I think this Philly pick might be real good in a few years, and then some really cool arms kind of going at the end of the first round there. So interesting draft all in all. That's it for this episode.